welcome back to What Drives You.
Good morning.
I'm Carl Bauer, one of the hosts of What Drives You, and we have a very, very special guest, a man I've known since 1993, Bill Anderson.
Shit, that's a long time. Damn,
It's a
I got
long time.
married 2 years before that. Wow, just celebrated the anniversary. Ah, go us.
Good
Go
job.
us.
Good job.
And we're still here, and the car business didn't kill us. Congratulations to you, Carl.
Thank you. Well, for those of you who are new to the channel or have been watching, Bill is truly one of my favorite people in the car business, mentor. I was thinking about this yesterday, Bill, when I was kind of formulating what we're going to talk about. The first ad I sold in 1993 was to a business called Rockenbach Chevrolet.
Remember?
And Bill was a boss. We were a startup. He had like loads of experience compared to us. I had zero experience. But I sold this account and didn't know what to do. And Bill came alongside. I don't know if you remember this, Bill, after we signed it, because our shtick was, we will do your whole inventory for $2 a car, or whatever the number was. And we sat out in the parking lot with pads of paper and pencils, the whole entire team, because they had like 2,000 cars.
Right.
And Bill was a trooper. We were sweating ourselves to death. And Bill was dressed up because he was the boss. And then finally got to me and goes, "Hey, bud, I did my best today. I got to get home," because he lived way far south from this place. And just was a great example and a great encouragement. And I don't know if I ever thanked you for that, Bill, but thank you.
I remember that day really well. That was kind of crazy. And Rockenbach was the store in the market back in that day. They were the big guys. They not only sold more Chevys than anybody else, they kept on the used car side, which is kind of what we were, they kept everything. Remember, there was junk in every corner. They had, didn't they have like a field just full of cars, new and used, just not next to the dealership, just piling up, no plan on how to sell them, but they just did. They just sold them. Tom McGovern was the name, right? Wasn't that the GM? He was a stud. He really turned that place into something.
Yeah. And the crazy part, it was, now it's not, it's grown up, but,
right.
1993, it was in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, from Chicago, I mean, as far as suburban Chicago goes, it was the edge of civilization, right? It wasn't where there was a huge population, but somehow they turned that into a destination store. And that's, here. And you know me well enough to know in the car business, I've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of managers over the years. And, there's a million ways to do different things and accomplish the same goals. We all can look at the same thing and come up with a different plan of how we want to create it and make it happen. But I've always given credit to the guys that actually do make it happen, right? The people that, it's great that you can say things or have certain accomplishments, but it was the Tom McGoverns of the world. Remember Danny Davis over at Elmhurst Dodge, whether you love it or not, Pat O'Brien over at Naperville Toyota, what they did, what he was able to accomplish with that group and store. I can go in a little bit deeper than that, but just those three are the first top ones off the top of my head. They took stores that were doing 100, maybe, and that was a good job, 150. And then they blew them up to 5, 6, 7. I think McGovern was doing 700, 800 cars a month just because they would sell every used car. A $500 car sold, retail, done, right? He kept everything and sold it all. And I don't think that was their success, but boy, it was a big part of it. They literally did, there was no CarMaxes back in that day. And CarMax can't even take care of everybody. They don't keep a cheap car for a kid, your 16-year-old, right? But McGovern had something for literally every person. I mean, if you want to put your kid in a $500 beater that might fall apart on the side of the road, God bless. Back in that day, that's what we did. I
Yeah.
mean, this was right in the 80s. Shit, I didn't think twice about putting myself in a beater, right? And just driving it until the wheels fell off. That's all I had. The car business wasn't paying me much back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fun. It was fun. It's been a great industry.
Well, and that's kind of why I wanted to have you on, because not only were you one of my early mentors, one of the first mentors, because Mark and Eric didn't have a ton of time to teach, and they hired you to be the kind of teacher mentor of us. Even though we did have some veterans, I think most of the people on the team were veterans. A couple of us were not. But you're a survivor, so you're an entrepreneur. Bill and I have some similarities, which is we're both fathers of two daughters. Both been married a long time to our high school sweethearts or college sweethearts, and both have had some bumps on our heads in business, and then stood back up and survived. So, uh, thank you for being that example, Bill, in business and in marriage and in fatherhood. But yeah, your story is pretty incredible. Tell us how you got into the car business.
Hmm. Oh, the car business started for me in a company called Hoffman Publications, which was a used car photo magazine. I mean, a little bit before that, I had a family friend that owned a dealership, and they used to maybe clean ups, do a little bit of detail or clean up the lot mostly to make a couple of bucks. But which here in cars, since I was a little kid, if my mother and father were around to be able to tell these stories, even when I was a little kid, we used to drive down the road, and that was a Chrysler and that was a Buick. And even if we were running down a highway, I'd start pointing out every car that was passing you, and there was always plenty. So I guess maybe I was always meant to be a car guy. But my very first job was Hoffman Publications, which eventually got bought out by Auto Trader, right? I mean, Chicago's a big market, so it was a good group. We had young, aggressive guys. We hit every new and used car a lot. I think there was a group of maybe 10 or so of us. As reps, I did really well. I was me and actually out of all the markets Auto Trader owned. I mean, that was every city and every market throughout the entire country at that point. In Miami, New York, Chicago, LA, Seattle, Milwaukee, they were everywhere. They literally they went and bought up all those used car magazines and made the Hoffmans, who is how we met, with Classified Inc., which was an early kind of internet search firm. We just didn't make it through to the end, but the timing was, I mean, we were right there, maybe just a little bit early, but it was, other than that, that was, you interview, you get hired. I needed something to sell. I was graduating from college in 1983, and I needed a job. And, I think it was probably 84 when I met one of their managers. I still remember him kind of as the person I always wanted to be different than. So we won't name his name. Uh, if he was the manager, I didn't think that's what a manager should be. No empathy, kick your ass, throw you out on a daily basis, tell you to come back the next day. Everything that would a decent, current, emotionally intelligent manager should do was the opposite. But then again, it was the 80s, and that was what we all thought a manager was. I was even that guy for a while, according to you. You told me I was a real pain in the ass for a while. But, everything kind of comes together, and having daughters taught us a lot. It probably takes an edge off of anybody. And I just, here, I love cars. So the business was easy to, like, came with it. You didn't have much of a choice. If you love cars, and the car business was what you were in, then that's what you did. Some of the crazy shit we saw, though, Carl, all the keys on the roof stories, I've actually seen that more than once in my life. I mean, all sorts of just crazy stuff in this business. The one thing that's really all. I can keep on going, but you only asked how I got in. I remember interviewing with a guy by the name of Bruce Keating, and then being, Bruce must have liked me enough, and he brought me into our publisher's office at that point, Mark Hoffman, uh, who, by the way, I mean, Mark, you when you're a 22 or year old, like I was at that point, I think Mark was maybe 5 or 10 years older than us at that point, right? Or than me, maybe
Yeah.
5 or 10. But he was a SMU, Southern Methodist University, when they were good back in the 80s, like Eric Dickerson good. This guy wasn't he the backup for Eric Dickerson on that team?
Yeah.
And he had long blonde hair and he was studly and he was, it was good looking and he had the hot girlfriend and it was everything that we all wanted to be at that point in our lives. And he told me, Bruce, yeah, I kind of remember him telling a little bit of his story, but telling him Bruce said that I need to be hired. So he just stood up, shook my hand. He wasn't a man, a lot of words, and said, congratulations. I guess you're starting next Monday. And I think Bruce, my whole training for Bruce, this is show you what Bruce was. And I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't even bring up his name. He did do a lot of good things for us in the end. But I think he gave me an hour. He like met me out on the road and we went to one car dealership where we already had a one-page deal. I think it was a Toyota store just outside St. Charles called Toyota West at that point. I remember all this really specific stuff. It's kind of crazy. It's coming back. We shot the page. He showed me how to do it. And then he just told me, and then he had to go back to the office for some reason and told me to go out and just work my way. It was North Avenue, which basically from Chicago, you can take it all the way to Iowa, Highway 64. And he told me that I needed to go with my camera and he handed me like a milk carton full of the Auto Trader magazines. I was just supposed to go to the edge of St. Charles and to take North Avenue from the edge of St. Charles all the way up to 294 and stop at every used and new car dealership and try to sell them an ad for, I think that time they were probably about $100 a page, right? Maybe.
That was before me, but yeah, that number rings a bell. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It was before you, wasn't it? But that was kind of it. And we just, and that was my training. So I had never, not even a cold call train. We told me how to, this is the product, this is how it works. And I got to go and I need you to go call every car dealer in the market. And I remember for the first 2 or 3 months, just, going, what the fuck, I mean, just getting doors slammed in your face. I remember Cotton Keen Ford.
Yep.
The old man, Joe Cotton himself, his son was great, and I loved his kids in the store. After like 3 weeks of calling, I think I was just leaving dejected for the third or fourth time because I knew no better. I just kept on stopping at all these dealerships, told me to go away every single week. And I didn't know any better. Like I said, I just kept on going. I got turned down. I'd go again the next week. If I was doing this route of North Avenue and Ogden Avenue back in that day, I just went to every one of them and just say, hey, how about this week? It was like, nope. I mean, none of them, some of them had never done it. Eventually, Carl, all of them did. I just kept on doing it. I mean, within a few months, I think they all felt sorry for me or whatever. But within a few months, I had most, 50, 60% of all those dealers, new and used, doing it. And, car dealers are a great community. If they like you and they think you're doing something good, your word gets out and everybody started buying pages. Then I started to figure out, and this was my claim to success. My big claim was I could get guys to buy 10 pages, not just one. Let's be the biggest dealer. Let's dominate and own this market because we're all a bunch of machismo, bravado type men, really stupid for the most part, but lead with our head, not our thoughts. And I just kept on doing lots of big ads, and that made me one of the top reps in all of Auto Trader country. I think I was number 2 in the entire nation for a couple of years. And then for whatever reason, they promoted, what do they do? They promote you to the level that you can't handle. So they made me a manager. And I didn't realize I was going to make less money being a manager, but I did. But I thought that was what I was supposed to do. 1 step back, take 2 steps forward. And I stayed in the car business for another 35 years. And now here I am still getting phone calls from car dealers. semi-retired, if there's such a thing. I don't know if retired's a word. I haven't figured out quite what it means yet.
Well, I think fully retired is probably a slippery slope. So I hope you're never fully retired.
Right, right, right.
Um,
I don't think I
but
want.
yeah, and I met you. So there's a transition where you got recruited out of the print,
Right.
which I thought was a great thing. And let me just touch on the classified information uh, topic for a second because you alluded to it, which is it was way ahead of its time. I mean, this is before the internet. This is before all the stuff. So 1993.
It
Well,
was, the internet was there. It just wasn't,
correct.
we
And
didn't know it.
but so here we spent huge money on TV ads to drive traffic to this search firm to give you a free listing of whatever type of car. So it was ingenious. It was, and I wonder, Bill, how many businesses are out there that were just a year or two or three ahead of time that were genius and actually came to fruition
Right.
later and that just failed. This was one of those.
If we could, I mean, Mark got in the 80s, probably, and I don't remember the number, nor should I probably even know it, but he got a lot of, millions and millions of dollars. And it was a great, you're right. It was probably just a year or two early. If we could have held on for another year or two, we probably could have been the biggest, of all those. Because here he had a great name, right? The classified uh product was a good, would have been a great, I mean, wouldn't you love to own classified.com right now, right?
Mhm.
I wonder who owns that now. But boy, and the story you said earlier about Rockenbach was one of many, and that we did sit at that one and shit. I could go to friends at that point and just ask them to sign up because it was, for the price of one page of we were losing so much money at that point. If you look back, I mean, we put 10 guys on Rockenbach. We were charging them $1,000 for a month or something like that. And we had 10 guys sitting out in the heat for 10 days. Even then, I think minimum wage was $5 and we were fucking getting killed at that.
Yeah.
Um, it was crazy. It was, it made no sense what we were doing. So I understand why we only made it the time we did. But boy, you're right. If we could have just held on for another year or two, I think that's when all the automotive search groups started showing up. The cars.coms of the world and the auto traders and the old story of, I've heard a million times, of Chip Perry pushing all the auto trader people. He wasn't going to launch this thing until he had 1 million cars online. Shit, we walked around by hand and probably rode up 1/10 of those just in Chicagoland ourselves. So
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy, A lot
So
of fun.
so we were winding down and at the end there because Mark was kind of running out of money and I think everybody saw the writing on the wall. And I think because you were in the inner circle, Mark was like, hey, I got to go back to the roots. My non-compete's up. And you were like, peace out.
Yeah.
So what'd you do after that classified?
Well, he just didn't want to go back to, literally would have had to rep the company again and start shooting used car photos. Literally, what we did? We had to go to a used car manager, show them their sheet of what their ad was. They'd cross off the ones that they sold and they give you a little list and you'd write down the 3 or 4 you had to replace. And you already knew where the keys were. So you had to go find the keys. And if they were missing, you still had to go find them. Or you had to move both cars on the other sides of them so you get a nice picture of it. Pull it out, take the picture all year long, even in the hottest or the coldest of all days. The cold cars didn't start hot. They were 110 degrees when you had to jump inside to pull it out and you were sweating and smelled like shit by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Thank goodness that was only about 2.5 days a week we had to do that. It was a lot of fun. Come to think of it, we had a good time. We transitioned then, from that beautiful thing into, like I said, management, and then to, like you said, turned down the idea of going back to do the same thing, went into the ad agency side, right? So I took those dealers that I was working with and I became an ad agency. Well, I guess that's a story. I worked for one first and then I opened my own. But we were doing those screaming Sunday, 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 don't miss it. The best deal on wheels this week only, hurry now. and on radio and TV commercials, and we were doing all the print ads and the Tribune and the Sun Times. God, they love I love those guys. They'd buy full page and double trucks and all these wonderful ads. And I really didn't know what I was doing there either, but you know, you kind of, like all of us have done our whole lives, we fake it until we make it. At first, my ideas were all centered around what I had learned before at Auto Trader, that a photo works, you know, it's pictures worth 1,000 words. And probably on that side, on the agency side, because of that, I started using pictures in ads versus car cuts. Remember the bad old line art of what cars were? I'd only use photos in all my ads. And that kind of became my thing. Other guys were still using the line art and making fun of all the photos that we'd have these bad cuts on, and they'd show up in the Tribune and you could see it. But for whatever reason, my dealers were selling more cars than the other guys. Those photos did work. They are worth, you know, a picture was worth 1,000 words. For whatever reason, my dealers did really, really well. Whether it was my Screaming Sunday ads or the newspaper ads or whatever, I was lucky enough to probably handle 3 or 4 of the top dealer groups and dealers. These were all privately held. There was no, you know, Auto Nations at that point. They were just family owned dealer groups. They had 4 stores or 10 stores, didn't matter. But those guys all started doing really well. And or a single point, right there. You end up with friends in that business, of course. So I mean, I still consider a couple of the dealers I worked with very close friends that I still do talk to on a fairly regular basis, and that I miss some of the craziness of what that industry and business was. But we had a great time doing that for a long time. You know, like I said, it
Can I
was
can
great. Yeah, go ahead.
interrupt there for a second? That's when, to you referenced earlier, uh, you had, I think you were one of the top agencies in Chicago, but that's when, and this is, I'll circle back to this so people don't think I'm teasing you or picking on you. That's when you thought a little more highly of yourself than I remembered from being my boss. And, but you were rocking the house. I mean, you had a whole team, you were billing out big money, and you were getting wined and dined by all the media companies because you were spending a lot of dough with them, which was a great life.
Yeah.
But part of this story and your journey, which is cool, is this up and down. Like, I rocked the house at Auto Trader, and then I went to classified, not so great. Then I opened my agency, and then we can talk about that. But
Yeah.
that survivor attitude and ethic that you have is what attracted me, and still to be a friend of yours, and count you as a close confidant too, because you've gone through a ton of crap.
Well, I consider you one of my close friends, first off. You're one of the guys that I will answer the phone for. When I, you know, if you're on my list, you're definitely one of the guys that I will answer the phone for. There's quite a few that I wouldn't answer the phone for anymore.
Thank you.
But we've become that, we've just become closer over the years. It's not that they're bad guys. It's just, you know, I am semi-retired right now. If I have a fish that I'm catching down here in Florida on the line, which is what I do most of the time these days. It's funny, you know, like car dealers will call me while I'm fishing, and can I call you back? I got one on line. Before, I would never have done that, right? Like a few of our reps that you used to work with that were your age group, you know, that shit, they'd do whatever they could to get out of work. I won't mention names again because some of them did quite well and some of them are fairly well known within the industry. But
Yeah.
we had quite a group. I mean, I can look at some of the reps that were underneath me, that what, you know, like what you did, and what Fred Uter did. Larry Hero obviously went on, had a great career. We had a hell of a crew, man. I mean,
Yeah.
we all went on and we all stuck with this industry. And those of us that did get, I mean, it gave back. It took care of us all. Like I said, I referenced just a second ago, I'm here on Marco Island, Florida. Life is good. All the rides, right? It's not just us. It was the industry itself had the ups and downs, the ups and downs. Remember how bad cars were in the 80s? The American cars were terrible. I mean, just junk.
Yeah.
We're just terrible fucking rides. Oh.
But after, so you left Auto Illustrated, you did the agency thing, you're riding high, and then tell us about that little tumble there and then how you got back up. Because
Well,
that's when you and I really became, I think,
yeah,
blood brothers at, between Dealer Fire and Dealer Inspire. That time there was really formative.
it was awesome. It was a great time. Well, '08 happened, right? The recession of '08 or whatever we're calling that financial blip we had back in that day. Um, and all those big dealers came crashing down pretty hard, pretty fast. I mean, Chrysler was threatening to pull everybody's licenses out from under him. Remember that? Ford was kind of doing the same thing. GM was looking for stores just to close. They had too many. The market, at least in Chicago, was way over dealered, and they were looking to close them. Didn't work out very well for any of the corporations trying to put the dealers down, considering they were franchise partners. But I had millions of dollars owed to media companies because that's kind of what an agency is. Besides all the creative work, we were just living on straight commission. If an ad cost 1,000, we made 150. So I needed to hire somebody that can do the ad, ship it, trip, and do whatever, and still leave margin. Agency business was not a great margin business, at least for local car dealers. We did some other non-automotive stuff, and it went pretty well for quite a while. We made a nice living and all that. But '08 took us out. I think I forget. I don't want to go into the bad parts.
Yeah, no.
Dealers that don't pay you their bills, or but they couldn't. It wasn't that they didn't pay me. They couldn't get paid themselves. It was a whole financial mess. You knew that. And then we met our friend that I think you're going to talk to in a week or two. We were just saying, Joe and Matt and Dealer Fire and Eric Hoopman and all those guys. My agency, I felt really good about the agency before we closed it. It was terrible to have to close it. We didn't have to bankrupt, but we did have to close it. There was just no money left. And the agency itself was a great model, but we were starting to do Google AdWords within the agency at that point. This is 2000 and I think 4. We were buying Google AdWords. Irish guy that worked for me, remember Mark Meehan?
Yeah.
Was doing our AdWords, and literally we were manually bidding. We just type in a number. I'd buy 25 cents for Chevrolet in that market, and this is how that worked. And I paid for him to go to school to learn it, and he was doing it while he was still at school. It's like we were professionals there, but we were the only agency, I think, at that point that was doing Google AdWords, and it was pretty damn cool. I mean, we were thinking we were the shit, but that helped me understand that the internet was probably it was changing our world already, right? That we had to have the www and the website up there, and you had to have www, even though wasn't necessary. We all know that now. And we started pushing our ads that way. So we started getting making ad websites. George Kaporis down at Airway, I made his first website ever. He started selling so many cars, we had to take something off the web, and we couldn't figure out how to take it down, because once you put something up, it doesn't really come down, right? People take copies of everything. Whatever happened, George wasn't a big dealer, but he was a lot of fun. And so I would fight hard for any one of my dealers. I had a very strong ideal of what the car business was supposed to be. And I also had a very strong feeling of what business in general was supposed to be, which was, I might not be the smartest guy, I might not be the most creative, but I will and can, and certainly plan on outworking anybody in this industry. Right. That's what drove me. That's what kept me going. That's what made my money, is that I just kept on working. Kind of like the night doing 2,000 cars at Rockenbach. I just wouldn't stop until it was done. Period.
Well, that to me, what again was impressive to watch. You had, again, like me, we both been through it, and that's why kind of we're blood brothers in this mess. Is to close something that you built from scratch and take the lumps and have to, beg for forgiveness and the whole deal. But then to reinvent yourself with Dealer Fire, with their, learning out. Yeah, you learned a little bit about AdWords, but then building websites and and SEO and SEM and all that stuff at our age was like pretty impressive for you to do. And you quickly became an expert and brought me over to Dealer Fire. And that was just a fun run of being a general agent, more or less, or a freelancer. But you learned so much there that catapulted you into launch. So tell us about that little window of relearning. And because you could have just given up and said, I'm going to go work at a dealership or I'm going to go work for some big agency, but you didn't.
No, I couldn't. It's not my style. At that, after working for somebody else, I don't think entrepreneurs are really hireable to work under anybody almost ever. It just doesn't work out for us. I don't believe. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have at least a few free thinkers in on your team. But we're definitely hard to put in a box. But our connections, our experience can lead to a lot. And I kind of remember doing my research because there was 4 or 5 website companies at that point that were doing, some pretty cool stuff. You introduced me to the guy, I forget, what are they called? The one in Chicago. They fired him now. It was part of
yeah, Dealer E-Process, yeah.
Dealer E-Process. That was it. And I met with that guy and he was kind of a jerk. About coming to work for him. And we talked to that a little bit through that. And then there was somebody else in Chicago that, what was it? PMT Advertising. That was it. Rob, I forget his name. The guy that ran it, the owner, they had websites. As a matter of fact, small world, Bruce Etzkorn actually was their webmaster at that point, at that place, right? And that name just comes back later on in my life, that I remembered him when Joe Chura eventually hires him. So I've been looking at all these websites while trying to figure out what I wanted to do from which different companies, and you were a big help on that. But I had found, and I remember I found them, like just doing the searches of all the dealers in markets, and it was Dealer Fire, that little logo on the bottom, which, by the way, was a pretty cool little fire, pretty cool little logo. But their artwork, what was the guy's name at Dealer Fire? Mark somebody.
Yeah, Mark, forget his last name, but that kid, that guy was good.
As an agency guy, his work on the websites, and really, he was just an artist. He was a graphic artist, is what he was. He was just a really talented, understood what a dealer wanted and needed graphic artist. The sites weren't dynamic. They weren't, within years and the way that industry evolved, right? You had to be dynamic. It had to be able to handle all the tablets we were using, and then our cell phones and everything else. And at first, none of that kind of worked. But for that year or two window, Dealer Fire had the best looking websites, in my opinion, in the country. So it was really easy to I never looked at a place that I was either going to work with, right, or for, as to anything else, as to would this be something good for my customers. And even if I didn't have classified or my agency or whatever, if this would be good for my dealers, I would get involved. And I truly believed what Eric Hoopman and his team, what's his wife's name?
Kristen.
That they would be able to help elevate my dealers. So it was really easy for me to sell. And you know the story. Eric was selling every little podunk dealership in the middle of Wisconsin, and then the middle of Wisconsin dealers led him to the middle of nowhere, Iowa, and the middle of nowhere led him to North Dakota, and all these little tiny groups that they were working for. Well, between you and I, with the names of some of the bigger dealers that are going to be in bigger markets like we knew, I think that was just a perfect opportunity where the two came together and it worked out really well. We were able to provide them with the names that would say, ooh, Toyota Naperville's doing a dealer fire website. I guess maybe I need to do one too, because dealers unfortunately do just look at what their buddies are doing and try to emulate or copy it in a lot of cases instead of being original. Now, that's not all dealers, but maybe that's most of us in life in general, I guess, not just dealers. But they just copied the success and see if that worked. Well, you know, there's a little bit more to it than that. We all know that, but that was awesome. That's where we met our friend Matt Cole, right? I still remember when Matt was trying. I kind of was Matt's first real guy, even though he already worked for Dealer Fire. I remember having a conversation with Matt, and telling him he could actually be very good at this industry if he just focus and dedicate himself to the industry. Well, that worked out pretty well for him, didn't it?
I think it did. I'll know more next week after when I talk to Joe and have him on. I want to have Matt on too. I mean, he's sort of semi-retired as well, but
to me, Matt's story is almost more interesting than Joe's, right?
Yeah.
Joe's just the ex-car guy that, you know, that's another story. Matt introduced me to Joe because Joe was in my area for dealer fire and Matt wanted to sell it. Well, I had a couple of leads up in Wisconsin, which was his area. So we did a swap, but for whatever reason, I forget who and how that's happened, but I ended up meeting with Joe and Matt at Riverview Ford, I think is where Joe was at that point, right? Isn't that the one in Oswego, Hennessy's, right?
Hennessy, yeah.
And so we ended up doing that. And I remember how dynamic Joe was. Joe was challenging us that his websites, because the world had evolved, we had been, you know, I'd been with Dealer Fire. We were selling all some big accounts and we thought we were pretty good. And then Joe would challenged us because he was doing some pretty thoughtful, creative stuff that would attract you. And whether he knew it or not at that point, he was linking things together. Like he was doing a lot of YouTube videos that he was linking to a website that in the end probably really helped those websites, right? While you're starting to bring in all of that different stuff. Then SEO started to matter, you know, meta tags, keywords, all the rest, then keyword stuffing, and then, oh, that's bad, you got to take it out. I remember Joe and Matt, the company's doing okay. So they start the company. We all leave Dealer Fire. And it took off pretty quick I mean, comparatively pretty quick, I guess. It was, you know, in Joe and Matt's mind, maybe it was a little bit more. They'll tell you the story of their road trip to Colorado to sell Fisher, its first website. There was some other website we were building on, but I remember meeting in Joe's basement. Right. I was literally, at that point, I was working with Pinnacle, but that was just because Pinnacle wanted to learn digital, right? Or websites and everything else that comes with it. Pinnacle needed that. All agencies needed to have a digital thought process. And Joe and Matt were the two best guys that could have helped that. So somehow they made an unholy alliance / partnership, did really well. Obviously, that company sold to cars.com for, what is that, 9 figures. God bless them both. And we did real well with that too. But, you know, like everything, I was starting to age out a little bit in my, at that point, I guess, younger 50s. And boy, that was a lot of fun too. I mean, just watching the way they grew that thing, completely different than the next thing. And that's why you go back to realizing that, you know, the difference, whether you're a car dealership or a website company or a widget manufacturer, I don't care. It's always about the people that you work with, not for.
Yeah.
Right. What kind of group can you put together that it's like a team, Carl. How is this baseball team better than that baseball team? It could be undefined a little bit. But I think for the most part, I have a little feeling that I know that as long as that team can get along really well, they can achieve better than almost any other business can.
Yeah,
I was lucky enough to get along with groups like that. You know, whether it was Auto Trader early with Eric and Mark, whether it was my first agency gig with the Lundins and Buzz Barton, and Peter Hansen. I don't want to leave that out. He's the guy that actually kind of embraced me and taught me that side of that business. To my own agency where I got to pick my own people, and God, did I have some great people that I worked with. To that, to the website side, to then, meeting my partner in crime, and also somebody I highly respect, Mr. Greg, over at the Vehicle Acquisition Network, and rocking that thing out. And so that kind of brought me full circle, right? From the agency thing and everything else was kind of more local Midwest. I mean, I had a couple of clients in Indianapolis and Wisconsin and Illinois or Michigan, maybe a couple other states, but it was not easy to work that too much. But getting through that was a great opportunity for all of us to grow.
Yeah. That's kind of where I wanted to end. Well, not end, but the career kind of end, which was, again, to the moon, failure, to the moon, pause, and then to at whatever age you started vehicle acquisition, because I remember, I think you know this story, Tom, you had told me you got to see Tom's product, and he came to the tower where Social Dealer was, where Brodsky's, and we sat. And I remember this like it was yesterday. Tom and I sat there, and he showed me the whole thing, vehicle acquisition, the early version. And for those of you who don't know, acquiring used cars for dealerships is very, very hard. Yes, you get trade-ins. Yes, you can go to the auction, but this kind of revolutionized the search and the efficiency for looking for private party vehicles. People who are just trying to sell on their own, that dealers can reach out to, nudge them a little bit and make them an offer. That's what Vehicle Acquisition Network does. And Bill's one of the co-founders of that. But I saw this thing at its birth, and I was like, ooh, Tommy, because he had a path that he was going to go compete with a friend of ours on dealer to dealer, or go after this private party. I'm like, Tommy, there's already one out here. And I know it was a little biased, but I think in the end it turned out you guys shifted to this private party and just blew it up. And it's been a fun, 8-10 year ride on that deal, which you've had an exit. That's another thing that I think is just great about you. You've exited. I mean, I don't know if
because remember what you were been talking about, the ups and the downs and the ups and the downs and the ups and the downs, and yeah, I kind of saw that opportunity, and just everything I've learned over the years and the hard stuff that I'm not going to bring up here, but yeah, because of the ups and downs, it was time for me to go away. The technology was just insane. What we could put together, what our developers found. By the way, our developers were all over the world. We were a global company. We were dealing with dealers all over North America. We had Canadian clients, we had US clients, we had Central American clients. I mean, we had dealers in freaking Australia. That, by the way, they didn't stay with us because it's impossible to work when we're sleeping, they're awake, they're sleeping, we're awake. Anything happens, you need to take care of a dealer right away, not tomorrow. And when they call with a problem and can't, right? And nobody answers, and we get back to you 12 hours later and you're asleep then, so you didn't get our answer. Just made it a little tough for them. That's being soothed over and worked out, I believe, by my buddy and my partner at that point, Tom. So it was awesome, dude. But I got to work with some of the largest dealer groups in the country. I mean, publicly traded ones, privately owned, massive, 50, 60, 100 dealers. All sorts of cool stuff that I've got to learn and see. And yeah, it was pretty awesome. I mean, it was a great run. And if there was anything, again, this is something that I knew that would be good for my dealers. So that's why I got involved. If it wouldn't have been good for my clients that I already knew for the last 30, 35, 40 years, would I have gotten involved? No. But at that point, we already had seen CarMax. And then what was CarMax? What was their key to their success, Carl? Buying from private party.
Yeah.
So it was easy for me to see. Our dealers still, to this day, some of our dealers still don't see that. But you know, why are they selling more used cars than I think if you took AutoNation, Lithia, and Group 1, added them all up, they're about equal to what CarMax does on used cars. And that's 3 dealer groups and 3 times the amount of stores. They jumped on
Big business.
they jumped on they just do the business. They've really made it into a science, which is hard. We always, you know, that's not what we were taught when we were young. In our world, remember, there's an ass for every seat. Whether it's too expensive or too cheap, there's an ass for every seat. And we were taught to believe that. Well, CarMax doesn't. And they were winning, and that's why Van won. That's why Van was as successful as it was. That's why Van will continue to excel, in my opinion. Right now, he's doing some really cool stuff, and I'm excited for him. And hopefully that all, you know, pans out the way it should. I'm a little jealous I don't get to be involved day to day, but that's okay.
Well, yeah, we're gonna have Tom on and hear his story too. So we'll get the other partners.
Tom's story is phenomenal. I mean,
Well,
Tom's where he came from just as the youth and the way he had, I mean, Tom's almost completely self-made as a person too, not just as a, you know, self-made millionaire, which he is. He is a self-made person. He was raised by a single mother that they moved around and had all sorts. Tom's just, his story is the best.
You know, don't ruin the whole story for us.
Yeah,
we're gonna get it.
Tom is, he was one of the smartest guys out here. It was easy for me to get involved with him. It was easy for me to help change that thing that you didn't think would work to make it into the right product, because Tom and I just, I don't know, for sometimes you have connections with people, and Tom and I just, I mean, it was just easy every single time. I said, Tom, I'm willing to do this if you'll do this. And yeah. All right, Bill, you got to do it this way. Yes. It was just for whatever reason early on, it was easy. That, you know, here, it's always easy when you give a couple of them away to your buddies that will be honest with you, because your buddies are always honest with you in the car business, right? And this particular buddy was Guy Cesario. The other one, I think we gave one to Bill Slevin's store in Palm Springs. Bill Slevin's store called us back within a day and told us to turn it off. They couldn't handle it. The phones had blown up so much from people calling, because it was the first day of launch, and you know, first day, the way the system worked back then was it would attack every person, and people just started flooding their phone lines. So they begged us to shut it off. Early Van wasn't easy to always shut off within a day. Yeah. Right. So the residuals are already out there. So it took them a couple of days before it cleared. But I mean, literally, the system created hundreds upon hundreds of phone calls. And Cesario was like, I believe he bought 2 or 3 cars the very first day by understanding it. Once you have that proof in your own heart, how easy is it to go out and sell to everybody? You know, this works now.
Well, and I was a customer, so this is not, you know, Bill just making this crap up. This is real. I experienced it at my dealership. We hired them. My people couldn't handle it because we took the all-you-can-eat version of the product, and they just couldn't handle it. They didn't understand, and they wouldn't listen to Bill's coaching and you know, best practices. So, but it works, and
there's an education process to anything, Carl. You know. And that's the sad part. We're all a little stubborn on that industry. They're still educating to this very day. If we all know that CarMax is outselling AutoNation 2 or 3 to 1, and that's combined totals annually, right? And that doesn't even begin to talk about how much money they're making on wholesale, which, by the way, if they're publicly traded, you can go look that up. They are making a fortune. Yet we cannot convince dealers buying cars. That's how they get most of their cars. And yet we can't convince dealers. It's the continuation of education into our industry that probably drove me the most nuts, and which also probably drove me to take the exit on the company.
Yeah.
I just couldn't handle Yeah.
But the exit that you did, which is again a lot of times rare, you got a fair number, you got seven-figure number, you got,
Yep.
and you're still involved to a degree, and you're still friends with the other founder, which is again pretty rare. You guys didn't go out of business, you didn't have a big fight, there's no lawsuit, and you're still there as an advisor and a founder, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Here, it was real, again, really easy when it's, I've become much, this is Tom's thing, right? Forced me through emotional intelligence training because I'm a little bit of a battering ram being an ex-car guy. Uh, he softened my edges and helped me, but it was really easy to go with when you have a great crew, and we did have a great crew. I loved the early group. I loved getting involved and bringing people in and having them see the vision of what this could be. And I'm thinking about specific people again. We won't mention it. And I think you should, you know, who I think you should go get. Besides, it's great to talk to the titans of the industry. Go talk to one that just, I mean, another bootstrapper, another. Should I mention the name? So I love a lot of people, right? I'm a big, I don't know, maybe it's dad, girl dad. I just love folks, but especially and women. This sounds wrong. I was about to say I love women, but that's not what I'm. You know, it sounds wrong there. Maybe
yeah,
that'll be
no, you're good.
for you. It'll be an edit for you, but talk to Tom about Emily Garricky,
Okay.
right? Our little Bob Jost BDC agent
Yeah.
that started in the industry when she was 17 as a female porter, right? And then worked her way into a BDC role, into an F&I role, I think before she was 20, maybe 19, something like that.
Yeah.
And now is just a stud for Tom. And she's been with us for a long time. Not the first crew, but a long time. And she is just, I mean, she sees the vision. She's probably, I mean, in my opinion, she's probably the next Tom or the next me. Tom's partner in crime. She understands this industry like nobody's business. She's just a great girl. And she's, oh yeah, all the while having three of her own children, raising a couple of other kids. I mean, this is the true, you know, do it all woman, in my opinion. She's, you know, car dealers are always going to ask for 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Whether Tom doesn't want them to, but you know, the dealer calls, you don't have much of a choice. You kind of pick up the phone and answer. And you know they call all times, day, night, overnight. You've experienced that yourself, but just some great people. And then, you know, I can't thank guys like David Long, who helped us, Gary Wade. We ended up working with his wife, Mary, another wonderful person there at Van. Jan, our original developer and current, you know, CIO, I guess, for Van. The guy from France that but lives in Peru. It just, I mean, just an amazing everything. Couldn't be more thankful for all the people that I have had enter my life. Very, and though, I mean, or do you remember? I just, boy, my mind's just blowing up right now, and it's the old stories, right? Were you with me when we went to Seattle with Chura and those guys? And we met Matt Cutts, the original SEO guy for Google.
I mean,
I feel like you were there.
I went to Google, one of those Google Think things, and
That
I
was
think
it.
Matt was there.
That
That
was
might have been.
that was the second one though. You were right. Yeah, right. The first one we weren't. We just flew out there like kind of on a whim. Early dealer inspire. But Matt, I think that it was a Google SEO. What was the name of that? Those SEO forums back then. They were in Seattle because that was, you know, kind of the place to be.
Yeah.
Techie area outside of Mountain View. Matt Cutts was the guy's name. I remember that. He was like the hero of SEO, going to save us all from bad search results.
Yeah. When you started talking to me and Matt and Joe did about him, I started following him. He was there a long time, and then he kind of went off into the sunset from Google.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just some great stories. You and I can go on and on about all those and reminisce. But
Well,
really,
I feel like this whole thing is rambling, but you know.
no, it's good stuff, Bill, because I think it also shows survivor, it shows hard work, it shows But and this is the kind of the theme that I wanted to share and bring out too, which was because I had this Barry Brodsky the other day on the call. Guys who changed, right? Softened, who, and I said this to him on his call, you weren't the easiest people to work with for a season or two, but now you've softened and grown and changed. And now, again, both of you I considered very dear friends and confidants. And hopefully at some point, maybe even potential partners in a future venture here, if we could
Awesome.
get it all together. So let's jump real quick and then I'll let you go because again, I know it's a Saturday and the fish are
Yeah.
jumping and your wife needs some care. But so I got 5 last questions for you. Uh, one's profound, could be profound, or just will be informational. And then the other 4 are just real simple, cool car stuff. So tell me about your first car.
My first car that I purchased myself,
Yeah, yeah.
1965 Buick Wildcat.
Oh,
500 cubic inch motor, maybe bigger than that, but it wasn't. It was bigger than all my buddies that had little Camaros. I had a 500, I think it was 500 or 500 plus, cubic inch. The thing just was a monster. Of course, it weighed 3 tons too. So,
yeah.
but
So
I could beat most of my buddies in their Camaros. I couldn't afford the Camaros, so that's why I bought this. That proves cars mattered to me. I
that.
knew I wanted something that would be faster than my buddies' cars.
All right. What was your of all your cars you've owned and driven, because you've had a lot, what is your favorite car?
Really don't have a favorite, Carl. I mean, if I thought the cars just they're yeah, I don't think I have a favorite. I love them all. I mean, whether it was a lot of fun having a Jeep, but it was also a lot of fun having a SRT8 too. Some speed, damn it. Or the truck I drive right now is probably my favorite vehicle, just the utilitarian part of it. I mean, I've had sports cars, the old G Coupe wagon, from Infinity.
Yeah.
Uh, I bought it I did a little bit of wholesaling from back lots of dealers, and always seem to have an extra car or two laying around. Uh, Triumph that I had was pretty sweet. The TR6, right? I bought that from a long defunct, now dead guy. Remember Bolingbrook Auto Center?
Yeah.
Oh, like Mitsubishi, back when Subaru was a nothing. And I think they had Subaru too. And we made fun of those guys. But I got a couple of great cars out of them. I bought a couple from like the Gollingers and Horizon. I think I had a 69 Camaro. If I had a dream car, it probably was a 69 Camaro with a big block SS if I had to dream.
So you answered my last 2 of the 4, which is current car, which is the truck, which I've been in,
Right.
and dream car Camaro. So if you were to
Not
go
just any
back,
Camaro, not just any Camaro, 69 big block, right? The SF.
69 big block SS, got it, noted. All right, let me give you a little context on this last question, then we'll let you go. And again, I appreciate you for joining. And Bill, part of what we're trying to do on this channel is educate, encourage, or entertain. So hopefully, I don't know if you got the entertainment or the education on this one, but hopefully you were encouraged because Bill is a survivor. He's a hard worker. He's one of my mentors, but just the guy keeps going and gets up and keeps moving. So that encourages me, and I hope it does you. But here's the last question. We call it the wow question, which is words of wisdom. And here's what some of the other guests have shared. Some of them are more profound than others, but one was be nice, right? Just simple, be nice to everybody, all the time, everywhere. The other one was that comes to mind was just get started. Whatever your idea is, don't just think about it, just get started. So for you, what would you tell young Bill, or what would you tell your daughters, or what have you told your daughters that you would want them to know, like do this thing?
Jeez. You warned me about this only at the very beginning of the conversation
I know,
before
I know.
the record. Um, I don't know if I mean, keep your head down and keep working is kind of is my own personal philosophy. Just keep your head down and keep going, just keep going. But if I had, and I don't know, this isn't my quote, and I don't know where the hell it came from, and maybe it is my quote that's been adjusted over years and years. But in this, it used to be a man has to do what a man has to do until a man gets to do what a man wants to do. Right. But I got to remove the word man anymore because I am the dad of daughters. A person has to do what a person has to do until a person gets to do what a person wants to do.
Yeah.
I think that's my, in other words, just keep your head down, keep working.
Yeah, but
And
Bill,
you'll get the opportunity eventually to do it the way you want to do it and have success doing that.
yeah. And what I've seen from you, and I don't know if you know this or anyone shared this with you, in the last probably 10 years, I've seen you not only keep your head down and work, but also enjoy life a little bit. Like I think those first 20 years I knew you, you were just always working, always. And again, that's part of that providing for your family and making sure everybody's safe and taken care of and there's cushion. But now the last 10 years I've seen you, hey, let's go on a trip. I mean, we went to
Yeah.
Missoula without the wives, and which is pretty rare. I mean, to have a 2, 3 days away and just,
Right.
we did some exploring, we celebrated Matt's wedding, but just
Amazing. What a fucking great trip that was. Waking up in the morning and looking at that little creek and having deer jumping around. Montana. Holy cow. I
just
need I need Matt Cole to sell me, break off and just give us a little corner of the lot over in his ranch there.
just a
Uh,
or a place to park an RV from time to time.
right. That'd be fair. I'll do that. I could do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I don't want to be there in the winter, just between me and you.
No, well, that's why I live in Florida mostly. I mean, I'll be coming up come in another few weeks, but Florida's great all winter long now. My wife talked me into beaches. And then the rest of the year, I hear I'm a water guy.
Yeah. Well,
I live on
I'm not
water.
jealous.
If I could live on water year round, I would. And I pretty
I,
much, I guess I do. So
you do. I'm not jealous of many people or things, but the fact that, and no one can see this, but Bill can, where he's standing, he can walk and be in about 30 steps at his boat and lower it into the water and go fishing and swimming. That's pretty badass. Yes.
I do like that. That's what, it keeps me entertained. Keeps me entertained. I actually am getting a half dozen texts from my neighbor right now. Let's see. Yeah, he's trying to get me out fishing with him, but it ain't happening today.
Well,
Mama doesn't feel good. I gotta take care of Mama.
take care of your brides, tell her hello, and thank you, Bill, so much for joining. This will be out. Now you're a YouTuber, just to add to your resume, just so you know.
Ooh,
Um, thank you, and we'll talk soon, and we'll see you soon.
great talking to you, my friend.
All right, have a great weekend and a great Easter.
Peace.
Bye.
Ah, happy Easter.